Katie Miller had never expected her life to turn into a nightmare when she signed up for the interstellar housing program. But here she was at 3 in the morning listening to her alien roommate Vixara scratch at the walls like a feral animal. Apartment they shared in New Seattle was supposed to be a cultural exchange opportunity. And for the first 6 months everything had been perfect. But then Vixara started acting strange about 2 weeks ago, and Katie noticed the changes immediately. Vixara belonged to a species called the Kethrani, who resembled foxes from Earth, but walked upright and had intelligence that rivaled humans in every way. But their biology was very different, and Katie was learning that the hard way. The scratching stopped, and Katie held her breath in the darkness of her bedroom, hoping that maybe, just maybe, Vixara had finally calmed down. But then she heard the soft padding of feet outside her door, and her heart started racing. "Katie," she heard Vixara whisper through the door, and her voice sounded different than usual, deeper and more urgent. Katie pulled her blanket up to her chin and tried to keep her voice steady as she responded. "What is it, Vixara? I need your help," Vixara said, and Katie could hear the desperation in her voice. "My season started early, and I cannot control myself." Katie had read about Kethrani mating seasons in the cultural handbook they gave her when Vixara moved in, but the handbook said it should not happen for another 3 months, and it also said the Kethrani became extremely territorial and aggressive during this time. The door handle started to turn, and Katie sat up quickly. "Vixara, you need to stay in your room," she called out, trying to sound firm, but her voice cracked with fear. "Cannot," Vixara replied. And now Katie could hear a low growling sound mixed with her words. "I need warmth. I need companionship. I need." The door opened, and Katie saw Vixara standing in the doorway. Her orange and white fur seemed to glow in the dim light from the hallway, and her eyes, which were usually a soft amber color, now looked almost predatory. Katie grabbed her phone from the nightstand, ready to call for help. But Vixara moved faster than Katie had ever seen her move before. And suddenly, she was on the bed staring down at Katie with those wild eyes. "Please," Vixara whispered, and her voice broke. "Do not be afraid of me. I would never hurt you." Katie looked into those eyes and saw something there that made her pause. It was not aggression or violence, but loneliness and pain and fear. "What do you need?" Katie asked softly, setting her phone down. Vixara sat back on her haunches and wrapped her bushy tail around herself. "My people do not go through this alone," she explained. "When the season comes, we stay with our pack members who help us through it. But I am alone here, so far from home." Katie felt her fear melting away, replaced by sympathy. She had been so focused on her own discomfort that she had not thought about how hard this must be for Vixara. "The handbook said you become dangerous," Katie said carefully. "We can become dangerous if we are left alone." Vixara agreed. "But with someone nearby, someone we trust, we can manage it. Our instincts tell us to protect our pack, not harm them." Katie made a decision that would have seemed crazy to her an hour ago, but now felt right. "Okay," she said, moving over in her bed. "What do you need me to do?" Vixara's eyes widened with surprise and relief. "Just let me stay near you," she said. "Your presence will help calm my instincts." Katie nodded, and Vixara curled up at the foot of the bed, keeping a respectful distance, but close enough that Katie could feel the warmth radiating from her fur. For the next several nights, they developed a routine. Vixara would come to Katie's room when her instincts became too strong, and Katie would let her stay. Sometimes they would talk about Vixara's homeworld and her family. Other times they would just sit in comfortable silence while Katie read or watched shows on her tablet. Katie learned that Kethrani mating seasons were not just about reproduction, but about bonding and connection, and that being separated from their pack during this time could cause severe psychological damage. On the 5th night, Katie woke up to find Vixara curled up beside her with her head resting on Katie's shoulder, and instead of feeling scared, Katie felt honored that Vixara trusted her enough to be this vulnerable. The season lasted 3 weeks in total, and during that time, Katie and Vixara bond deepened in ways that Katie never expected. When the season finally ended, and Vixara returned to her normal self, they sat together on the couch drinking tea. Thank you, Vixara said quietly. I know this was not what you signed up for when you agreed to share your home with me. Katie smiled and shook her head. You are my friend, she said, and friends help each other through the hard times. Vixara's eyes glistened with emotion. On my world, we have a saying, she began, those who stay beside. You in the dark are the ones who deserve to stand beside you in the light. Katie felt warmth spread through her chest. I like that, she said. Vixara reached out and took Katie's hand in her paw like fingers. You gave me something precious, she said. You gave me a pack when I thought I would have to face this alone. Katie squeezed her hand back. That is what roommates are for. Right. Vixara laughed softly. No, Katie, most roommates would have called the authorities and had me removed. You did something far more difficult. You chose to understand instead of fear. From that night forward, their friendship was unbreakable. And when other humans asked Katie about living with a Kathrani, she would simply smile and say that sometimes the most important thing you can do for someone is just be there even when it is scary. Especially when it is scary. The Interstellar Housing Program used their story as an example of successful integration, and Katie and Vixara became minor celebrities in the cultural exchange community. But for them, it was never about fame or recognition. It was about two beings from different worlds, learning that compassion and understanding could bridge any gap. Katie never slept poorly again, because now she knew that having Vixara nearby was not something to fear but something to cherish, and on the nights when Vixara had nightmares about being alone, Katie would wake her gently and remind her that she would never have to face the darkness by herself again.